All right, any given Sunday sports special. We are back. It's me, Jesus. I got my man Anthony. I got my man Steve. We got more teams to talk about, more information to give. What up, fellas? How we doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic.
How about you,
Anthony? I feel fantastic.
Can't complain, won't complain. That's life for you.
Well, we got three teams to get into today. Today we're gonna go over Pops. We're gonna go over Dennis, and we're gonna go over Dom. So we have some experience, and we have former champions today. This is the show of former champions that just weren't good enough to make the playoffs last year. But
I like it.
It's going to be fun. But before we get into that, we had a trade that went down this week. So we want to go ahead and we're just going to talk about it, very shortly, nothing too much. But the two rookies, they must have heard our show and they went ahead and they made a trade together. It was awesome. Sean went ahead and sent Mark Ingram to Gabe for $15. No trade exception was involved. I know what my feelings are. Do you guys want me to go first, or Steve? You want to go first, or have Anthony? It's your call.
I'll take it for no. I'll take it first. I think the kid on the block listened to our information, kind of panicked a little bit. Was like, you know what? They're right. I need to move this guy. He took our advice. He tried to get as much value as he can. He got $15 out of it. Not great, but I mean, still, a decent profit.
$14 profit.
I probably wouldn't. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have paid that, but. I think making $14 is a good start, and it definitely helps when you can get a player. As for Gabe acquiring him, it makes sense. I can see why. I think maybe he probably thought, you know what? I still believe in this guy. I think maybe he could probably beat out a Peterson, or he's probably targeting a Peterson. And he's okay with playing the switch role, which Gabe, I think, is very smart and is capable of doing that. So I like it. I don't, I think, the rookie did the good thing. I think Gabe probably took the risk and was okay with the risk. And he has the money to do that. So I think it worked out for both people. I mean, that's just my thoughts.
All right, Anthony, what about you, my main man?
I think it was a solid move. I think if you have money, you spend it. What we learned at this draft and past draft, that things get crazy. Guys go for higher than what you thought they were. You end up spending more on this one or less than that one. It still gives him enough ammunition to do the things that he needs to do. And the most important thing about Mark Ingram is that there's a shift in the NFL. I mean, outside of very few teams, there's no guy getting 350 carries a year.
Yep.
You split the time. You have Ingram, who's a better receiver, so he's going to be in there on third down.
Yep.
I know they drafted a guy, but he's for the future. You got Peterson, you got Ingram. So Ingram will get his touches either on the ground or through the air. It's a versatile passing attack. Like I said, if you have the money, you use it. You don't let it just sit there. If you can get somebody who's basically a lottery ticket, you see what happens, you scratch it off, and hopefully you hit something. You find out when the season starts, but it's a great way for him to use his money.
I mean, I completely agree. So let me go ahead and let me start off with Gabe's side of it. And I'm so proud, man. I'm so proud. This week, my dude Gabe. Congratulations, by the way. New high school graduate. Congratulations. I want to give you props on that. Next step is college. We're gonna keep moving. We're gonna keep going forward. I like that. But I'm just looking at it, and what Gabe has done here is Gabe has a lot of low risk, high reward on his team.
High reward guys. Exactly.
And it's, to me, you can't get any better than that, because even if all of these guys fail, Cam Newton, he paid $13, could even drop down to 11, probably going to be 13. Let's just, let's keep it real. Mark Ingram, $1, what is his keeper tag, but he paid $15 for him. And then Sterling Shepard at $3. Let's just say, if Mark Ingram and Cam Newton play well, not great, but they just play well, you realize next season he can keep Cam Newton and Mark Ingram for a total of $19. So Gabe has went ahead. He not only took a low risk for this year, but he's also has now potential keepers for next year. You can also include Sterling Shepard in there at $3. And on top of that, Gabe still has $204 to go into the draft and 3 players.
Still got plenty of cash. Exactly. That's why I don't blame him for doing it.
It was, the trades that he has done have absolutely zero risk to them because he didn't break the bank. He's still over the actual cap, which is $200. So he's still over that. And Mark Ingram, people forget he's a free agent after this year, so he can potentially walk and go somewhere else. And Gabe has him for $1. Plus, on top of that, when was the last time Adrian Peterson played well and played a full season in the NFL? I know I can't remember that. So what are the chances that Peterson's going to stay healthy throughout the whole season? We don't know. We don't know that. So to me, I got to give Gabe props. Now to go to Sean's side. I like it. I like that Sean went ahead and sold him. You know why? Because having Drew Brees, it's counterproductive. Plus, on top of that, you're not gonna pay $21 to keep him if you have to pay the tax. Plus, on top of that, Julian Edelman at $13, not worth the money. This isn't a PPR league. So what did he do? He went ahead and he said, you know what? I'm going to go into the draft where I'm paying $21 for Drew Brees. If I make a $14 profit, now Drew Brees only costs me $7.
Yep.
That's perfect. So I believe he has, $193? Correct me if I'm wrong. Something around that range. $193 in Drew Brees. That's a good situation to be in. So these two rookies did a pretty solid deal with each other. You know, I was kind of mad at Gabe. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I actually was on the verge of locking up Mark Ingram for $10. And then Gabe jumped in, and I think Dom also jumped in. So there were teams all of a sudden. Once I went ahead and I made the announcement, a team started all of a sudden jumping in, which my bad on that. You know, I probably should have kept my mouth shut like I usually do on trades. But this was one of those that I was dealing with the rookie, and I didn't want to take advantage of him. So I was like, you know what? Let me just do the right thing and make this one public. You guys all know me. I don't do that all the time, and that's probably the first and last time I ever do that, especially since my own nephew went ahead and backstabbed me. Thank you, Gabe. Appreciate it. But that's the trade. So good job to both guys. But now we got to get into some champions, some former champions in this league, guys that know how to win. Just had a tough time, had a tough go of it last year. Doesn't mean that they don't know what they're doing. So Steve, out of Dom, Dennis, and Pops, I'm gonna let you decide who you want to go over first.
I definitely want to start off with Dom. We'll start off with Dom.
Let's do it.
And with Dom, I mean, for all intents and purposes, we know he bought DeMarco Murray for $45, so he's definitely keeping him, right?
Agreed.
Makes total sense.
Yep.
Next logical sense, obviously AJ Green for $5, right?
Agreed.
So that's $50 a cap right there, just locked in those two players. And then he's got one more keeper to play with. And the next person who makes sense, yeah, he had a down year. Yeah, he didn't finish well, but he's still $1. He's still a starting running back, and he's still pretty decent. And that's one of Lamar Miller. So Dom's to me, I don't think he's gonna use the $20 tax on a Brandon Cooks to make Brandon $50.
Not happening.
Doesn't make sense.
Not happening. Yep.
And then Greg Olsen becomes then $33, which is too expensive for Greg Olsen as well. So then it just makes sense that he starts off with Lamar Miller, DeMarco Murray, AJ Green, and $149. So, which is really good for three players. I mean, these three players carry very great value. You guys know, AJ Green on open market today would probably cost anybody around $60, right?
Agreed.
We know DeMarco Murray. Mm-hmm. Okay, like we all know that. What's his name? I drew a blank, but the backup's there, kind of in the wind.
Henry.
Yeah,
Henry.
Thank you, Derrick Henry. Yep. Derrick Henry's in the backup. He's waiting there, waiting for his time. But the fact of the matter is, DeMarco Murray still ran well last year. I mean, if he went on the open draft, he'd probably go around that amount, maybe less. Okay, Dom maybe paid over a little, but he's got a $5 tag, and if DeMarco Murray keeps his job for next year, he's got a solid running back at $5, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Lamar Miller, which, okay, Lamar Miller maybe doesn't go in the 40s or 30s. Maybe he's a $20 back, but he's still making a profit because Lamar Miller is still $1 at the end of the day. So what Dom essentially has is now two solid running backs locked up. He doesn't have to worry about the running back position. He's got a number one wide receiver that he can bank on. And now he can go into the draft and kind of look at what's available. And to me, he can get a second wide receiver, and he could look at a Jordy Nelson as another number one complementary to AJ Green.
But does he keep a third player? to pay a tax.
I don't think he does.
I.e. Derrick Henry, $26 basically in essence.
I don't think he does. I think he lets everybody else go. It makes the most sense because Greg Olsen, maybe Greg Olsen at $13 is a deal, but the problem is the $20 tax doesn't make him a deal anymore. You see what I mean?
Yep.
So he's gonna now weigh the options of, can I get Greg Olsen less than $33? And to me, I think he can, because we haven't seen in the past 2 years that dominant tight end.
He will. He'll get him for less than 33. You're right about that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because the thing is like, even with your boy being out there, people would be hesitant because of the injury risk. And even if the Empire decided to let Graham go, I mean, Graham didn't put up that solid numbers to command $33 like he has in the past. You see what I'm saying?
Agreed.
Once you go past Gronkowski, it's basically muddled. Like, you're getting value, but it's not the point in that type of money. So I think he lets him go and tries to get him back, tries to get him around that 15, 17, which I think Greg Olsen will probably go anywhere between 17 to $20. So he's essentially paying $5 more to get a player back, and if he used that tax, he still, you know what I'm saying? He would have saved money. So I don't think he does that. So that's why, to me,
fair enough,
I don't think he uses the tax at all. I think he just keeps those 3 players. He goes into the draft with 149. I think he goes after another number 1 receiver to complement AJ Green. And then after that, he's going to do what Dom does. He's going to go after these players that are like, okay, who are maybe I want to go after them. They're Dom-like players, and he's going to fill his roster.
Okay.
Now, the one thing that concerns me with Dom is in the past couple of years, I feel like he hasn't been on his A game. He's kind of been complacent at times with his betting. He tends to try to drive prices up on people where he shouldn't be in at all and ends up getting caught. I would like to see him move away from that, because when he did move away from that and he truly made educated guesses on guys that he wanted, and he goes back to the form of the waiver wire where he was really good, he's a championship caliber guy. Like, he has the capability of doing it. He's proven it before. I just haven't seen that in the past 2 years. I don't think he does it. I still think he's a middle of the team road. And I hate to say this, but he's the only person stopping himself from getting into that next level. He's got to stop driving guys on prices up, because I've seen him being caught in that mix the past 2 years, and it's burned him. If he gets away from that, focuses only on his draft board, doesn't worry about anything else, goes back to the waiver wire, knows how to get guys, and if this new rule passes, I think he could be a very dominant force, and he can be back to championship form.
Okay. What you got, Anthony?
I think Steve filled it in for everybody. He broke it all.
I brought my A game today, boys.
I could tell.
Area S breakdown. That was some real analysis there. Jesus Christ. How he to spend his money, who to keep, who not to keep, who's looking to waiver right. The season hasn't started. Jesus Christ, man.
Well, I mean, he's giving advice like he's supposed to do, Anthony. We discussed this last week.
Right, but I mean, when we look at his roster, there's not that much advice to give, because it's pretty logical. If you have 2 starting running backs, and you have a top 5 wide receiver, those are the guys you keep. Everyone else can go. Okay. It's like, it's not even really a discussion. You don't think like, do I keep Brandon Cooks and worry about a $20 tag or think about Greg Olsen? None of that matters. Like, I mean, you think about your bench after you've taken care of your starters. Once you've got that settled, you go from there. So if you have a top, you have 2 starting running backs, you have a top 5 wide receiver. Your focus is, I need to get me a quarterback. I need to get me another wide receiver. Well, 149, he can definitely get himself a top flight wide receiver. And quarterbacks, because they tend to be pretty versatile, you can go after a Dak Prescott, a Kirk Cousins, or I mean, you can definitely go higher than that. But I mean, there's a lot of range. Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger. There's a bunch of guys that you're not going to spend a whole lot on that are absolutely positively going to be there. It's never going to change.
Okay.
So what you want to worry about is like, okay, you have Rawls, he's a backup. You have Henry, he's a handcuff. You have Olsen, he's a starting tight end, but Really, when it comes to tight ends, if your name's not Rob Gronkowski, it doesn't really matter because all the other ones have really severe flaws. You never know what the hell's going to happen. If you got Gronk, you're cool. After that, you just kind of see, who's out there and what goes on. Because those guys always pop up on the waiver wire. One guy has a great week, then has another, then he's cut the following one. So, yeah, Cooks goes, Olsen goes, Rawls goes. Seattle defense, I mean, you're not going to keep the defense over Lamar Miller, even though they do have a tendency to score almost at a running back type level. But when you got a guy who's an automatic starter, you got DeMarco Murray who's an automatic starter, you got AJ Green who's a top 5 wide receiver, there's not much to discuss. You keep those, and you just fill in the gaps from there.
Okay.
After that, if he drops if he drops Miller, that's insane. If he gets rid of Murray, which you just traded for, he's not going to do that either. And he paid so much money last year to get AJ Green, so they have him at the $5 tag. He's not going to get rid of him either.
Yeah, I mean, you got to reap the rewards on that one. Absolutely, you got to reap the rewards on AJ finally. Right. All right, so
what he spent like $60-$70 last year. Yeah, get him for $5.
Yeah, he gave me Odell Beckham in cash for him. Remember, he gave me Odell Beckham in cash for AJ Green.
Mm-hmm. Right, and the whole purpose was get him at $5. You got him at $5, then I can kind of figure it out from here. So he's setting himself up properly.
Okay.
And the thing that we worry about always with Dom is that you should make sure you spend your money wisely. And he's always aggressive, but you want to make sure that it's positive aggression. You can't just be aggressive for the sake of being aggressive, or just for the sake of wanting to make moves.
Well, he gets sloppy. I mean, he gets sloppy on draft day, and he's admitted it, where he will literally bid on a guy just because he doesn't want you. He wants you to pay more, and then he gets stuck. He's admitted that he's done that, and he's regretted it. But I mean, we'll see if he's learned from it. I mean, I'm gonna get it. Look, this is. I don't think I've ever admitted this ever on the show, but I will do it now. I guess there's a first time for everything. Steve actually convinced me of something. Steve is actually right, and I was wrong about something. Oh, I think I just threw up by accident.
Oh man,
it's gross.
Keep elaborating, please.
It's gross. No, because I went into this right. I went into this saying, okay, well, he's gonna go ahead. He's gonna keep Lamar Miller. He's gonna keep DeMarco Murray. He's gonna keep AJ Green and Derrick Henry. I went in saying there's no way he's not gonna do that. Because I was thinking it differently. I was thinking he's paying the 21 for Lamar Miller, and then he's keeping Derrick Henry for the 6. But if he just lets Derrick Henry walk, he can get Henry back for say 10 to 15, and he's still profiting out of that. So yeah, Steve, you kind of got me off of that one. I gotta give you props. It doesn't happen often, so take it and run.
I brought my A game today, sir.
Yeah, apparently you did. But no, yeah. So I mean, it just makes all the sense in the world for him to go with those 3 guys and let everyone else walk. But then on top of that, what does he have to do on draft day? Yes, Jordy Nelson will be nice. Odell Beckham will be nice. But I think the key piece that he needs to get is going to be Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry is vital for him. Because if we all know DeMarco Murray, we all know the man is capable of getting hurt. And with an offensive line that Tennessee Titans have, you want to have the backup. And then on top of that, if the backup is a Derrick Henry, who once DeMarco Murray's gone, guess who's the starter, guys?
Yep.
Derrick Henry. And then you could probably have a really good keeper tag on him. So to me, that's the guy that he absolutely has to get. And then after that, I'm actually not going receiver. After that, I'm going quarterback. And when I'm going quarterback, I think that he's gonna have to take a risk. He's probably not gonna want to do this, but this is something that I think is best for him. A Russell Wilson type of guy. A guy that's gonna get him points, not just throwing the ball, but running the ball. And if he doesn't go Russell Wilson, then the only other option that I think makes sense for him is Matt Ryan. Those are the 2 guys that I think he absolutely has to go after. And if he gets them, then it's a success. But he just hasn't shown the ability to draft well. He hasn't shown me the last several years that he's good at drafting anymore. And I could also say he hasn't shown he's good at waiver wires anymore either. So it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah. But with that being said, I think we all are in agreement. He's going to go Miller, DeMarco Murray, AJ Green, and build around that. So, with that said, what do you want to do next, Steve? You want to go Pops or you want to go Dennis?
Let's talk Pops. Yeah.
I knew you were going to save Dennis for last.
We got to save Dennis for last.
All right, so let's go ahead. Who wants to start off with Pops?
I'll start it off again because I feel good. I feel like I'm on fire today. You know, put me in, coach. I'm ready to hit the threes. Okay. And what for me for Pops is very simple. I think the only logical sense, when it comes to the math and when it comes to the money, is keeping Ezekiel Elliott at 43. Because we know Ezekiel Elliott is worth more than that. So even though Ezekiel Elliott on the open market probably goes for 65 or higher, depending on if people like him that much or not, he's making a profit there. And then of course, you have to keep the gunslinger Aaron Rodgers at 19, right? Here's the problem. Pops can't afford the $20 tax at that point because just with those two guys, he's at $138.
Bingo.
So if he puts a $20 tag on Allen Robinson, that's $32 right there, which Allen Robinson had a down year. And $32, I don't think Allen Robinson goes in the draft for $32. I think he's probably around the 20s, which I think Allen Robinson would be a value at that point because I don't think Allen Robinson's bad. I think it was just an anomaly, and I think he'll return back to form. So then you look at Todd Gurley, and when you add the $20 tax on Todd Gurley, he becomes $52, and you can't afford Todd Gurley at that price because Todd Gurley, even though the talent is there, it is a massive risk to keep him higher than that amount because Todd Gurley probably goes around that amount in the draft.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong, fellas, right?
Yep.
So then the question becomes, Pops goes in at 138. He knows he needs more money in order to get other players. So then he turns into a seller of Allen Robinson and Todd Gurley. And the one thing, and I'll be honest, I'm actually going to help Pops on this. I've already talked to Pops. I already know what Pops wants in terms of profit. Pops is looking to sell one of those two guys, and if any other team wants to join on that, I highly encourage looking into it. But it's going to be very difficult to top them down. My advice to Pops is get whatever profit you can. Because, yes, you could let these players go, but the reality is these players will not go for the amount with the tax on them. So even if you got a $3 to $5 profit on these guys, to me, it's worth it because these guys are only going to go for less than the draft. If I'm Pops, I want to sell Todd Gurley for, let's say, instead of he would have him at 52, if Pops can get 55 to 57 range, if I were in Pops' shoes, I would do it because I know Todd Gurley's most likely, and we talked about this offline, fellas, if Gurley has a decent offseason or decent preseason with 1 week, you know what I mean? He's capable of hitting that number, right?
Absolutely he is.
So if I'm Pops, I try to squeeze because 138, it's not ideal. There are a lot of other teams ahead of you that are in much favorable cap space. And I'll be realistic. Pops, in the past 2 years, has been very heavy on wanting to go after big guys, where we've been surprised. And we've been surprised that he's been going after these guys. Because I think a lot of us last year didn't think he would be in the Ezekiel Elliott sweepstakes for $43.
I won't forgive myself for that. I won't forgive myself for that one.
So, again, you know what I mean? We're seeing a cosmic shift with Pops where he's going after these higher price tag guys. I don't think that changes. I don't know who it's going to be on this board. To me, it makes the most sense that he goes after Jordy Nelson because he has Aaron Rodgers, and he's going to need the money in order to compete with that. So why not sell an Allen Robinson or a Todd Gurley, even though for very little profit is still profit at the end of the day. And if you can get $7 added to the 138 and you start off at a 42 to 45 range, why not? And that's what I have to say about Pops.
What you got, Anthony?
Look, you keep Rodgers, you keep I like it. Again, I don't know why it's all the discussion. You make it out to be harder than what it is. You keep Rodgers because he's either the best quarterback in fantasy or the second best. You keep Elliott because he's one of the top 3 backs in the league. So we always focus on how do I get my points? Where do they come from? Between those two guys, you should get minimal, let's say 45, 50 points, maybe.
Agreed. I agree with that.
I mean, and that's low because of what they mean to both of those offenses. And again, I do agree with Steve again. Like I said, he's on one today. If you can sell Gurley, you sell him. If you can sell Robinson, you sell him. But if you can't, if you got to eat that cost and just try to save the money and then get something else, like I said, a Jordy Nelson, that would be a good combination. I think Alshon Jeffrey will have a good year. I don't think he'll reach Odell Beckham, but like I said, he does like big name pieces. And if he can get,
he ain't getting Odell.
A big scoring piece in Odell. I know, but let's say, like I said, we're handing out advice. Well, here's the advice: if he can, and some small modicum of the world said he can. So if he has Beckham and he has Elliott and he has Rodgers,
he's winning the championship.
Just fill in a
He's winning the championship.
Yeah, but with that kind of scoring punch, I mean, you get whatever else you're getting after that is just you're happy to get. I mean, you still need a number 2 running back, but there are other options out there. You have Lacey, you have Peterson, you have maybe one of the young rookies. There's guys that are there that you can kind of team up. But I think with the process and the way that he's running his team and the way that he likes to manage the draft and manage his money, I think there's a real possibility he's probably going to sell off one of these guys. Is he going to be able to? I don't know, but I know that has to be his plan because he doesn't want to go in to have this empty-handed. But even if he loses those guys, and having, a top 3 back and a top 2 quarterback, you're still in tremendous shape.
Yep.
And as long as you spend your money wisely, which Pops has a really good habit of doing, and finding guys that you don't think of and you don't know of, like he's the kind of guy who's like, you know what, let me take a Kareem Hunt. You're like, who the hell is Kareem Hunt? And all of a sudden, at the end of the season, he's a top 15 back. Pops has a habit of doing this kind of thing. That's what he likes to do. Every time I see him, he has like a backpack. Well, he doesn't have a backpack because that would seem ridiculous, but an arm full of magazines with fantasy stuff from all over the place. He does his research. He knows what's going on. He knows what he's doing. So I trust that he's going to make the right decision. There's not much advice I can give him because he knows what he's doing. Like, you don't really need to tell him what you think he should do or shouldn't do because no matter what, he's going to go the route that he's going to want to go because, he lives his own life. That's what he does best.
Okay.
So as long as he has those 2 guys and if he can find a really solid third piece, he's going to be in contention again. But Jesus,
I mean,
you might feel
it's
similar.
gonna.
I just want to know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, I feel kind of similar to you guys. Obviously, I agree. He's going to go Rodgers and Zeke. There's no doubt about that in my mind, and I do think that they're going to, help him. They're going to be very good. There could be some twist into this, right? So Zeke Elliott, let's say he gets suspended for a couple of games. What does Pops do? It's those type of things. But everybody who knows how Pops drafts, anybody who studied him, and I can tell you this right now, nobody has studied Pops more than I have as far as the way he drafts. And the one thing he does is he doesn't give 2 you-know-whats about his bench. He gets his starters, and then his bench is filled of the backup running backs to his starters. That's what he does. That's always his focus. If he drafts a Zeke Elliott, he's going to get, I don't know who's the backup this year, McFadden, I guess, for Dallas. That's always his goal. He's always going to get the backup to his starter. That's his top priority. So that's why he doesn't care about how much he spends on his starters because he knows his bench is only going to be guys that are backups anyways. There's no concern. Now, the one part I do disagree with you guys on, and hear me out on this because it sounds crazy, but I don't sell Todd Gurley. And here's the one reason why if I'm Pops. If I want Todd Gurley, I want him to be out there in the market. So I'm going to let Todd Gurley walk because I don't want to pay $52 for him. I'm going to take that risk that all of a sudden, if I let him walk, regardless, even if, say, a Steve or an Anthony come and pay $60 for him, that's $60 less dollars that these guys are going to have where I can then get someone else. Or if they don't pay $60 for him, I can potentially get Todd Gurley back for, say, $45, maybe even $50. So to me, it's going to be one of 2 things. Either Todd Gurley's going to go for an absurd amount on draft day, or he's going to go for dirt cheap. I don't see a middle ground. He's not going to go for 30s. It's either going to be something absurd, or it's going to be a really good deal. So that's why if I'm him, no, don't sell him. Let him go out to the market, because that way you have a chance to bring him back. I'm sorry, Steve, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I just don't see it. I mean, I agree with you. I don't think Todd Gurley's ever gonna go in the 30s. That's not happening.
Yep.
My realistic picture is my thing is it's gonna come down to a numbers, and Pops is gonna really have to talk to himself and say, does a Todd Gurley go for 50? If Todd Gurley goes for 50, then I agree with you, Jesus. If Todd Gurley goes for more, or I mean, I disagree with you, is what I'm saying. Because then he could have probably sold him, and he could have made profit, and you know what I'm saying? Because the one thing that Pops can't afford is Todd Gurley going less than the value of the tax. So if there's one person I'm pressing people, it probably would be, because if Todd Gurley goes to less than 50, that person comes first. So it comes to the math of, okay, Todd Gurley to me $52 with tax, right? If no other team comes in and doesn't want to give me the profit I want, and I don't want Pops' profit, I'm not going to come on that. If they don't get the number that I want, then he's got to make that decision, and that's where I think it's tough for him.
Yeah, but I mean, let me, but let me jump in here real quick, because I completely hear you, Steve. I get it. But if Pops wants, let's just say, for sake of argument, Pops wants Todd Gurley. Let's just say, for argument's sake, and Pop says my number for Todd Gurley that I want to get, that I want him for, is $60. Let's just throw that number out there. If that's his number at $60, then I'm not selling him for anything less than $70. I'm gonna say I'm gonna let him walk, and then I'm gonna go all the way up to 60 for him. And if somebody beats me at that number, then so be it. Tip my cap. Go ahead. Now you have $60 to go after someone else.
See, that's the problem. I don't think if you're Pops, you want to go back to the 60 number, because you could have kept him at 52. And if you look at Pops' cap, he's in a tough situation. Like, the worst thing that could happen to him is he goes back in the Todd Gurley sweepstakes and actually pays more.
But but I'm saying that's his max number. But that's his max number. So again, this is where Pops is gonna have to probe, right? And this is where, if I'm him, I'm pretending to shop around Todd Gurley just so I can hear what teams.
I would definitely, if I were him.
But I'm pretending to shop him because I want to hear what teams would pay for him before the draft, so then I can make my decision whether I'm gonna keep him or not. That's what I do if I'm Pops, because that's what helps the decision making. Do I think Pops generally has any interest in trading Todd Gurley? I really don't. I think what Pops is doing is Pops is playing the game. He's trying to find out how much people are going to pay for Todd Gurley. And guess what, Pops? I'm sorry. I'm not biting. You're not getting me on that bait. I'm not telling you how much I'm going to pay for him. But yes, I do have every intention to go after him. But I ain't telling you how much I'm going to pay. You're going to have to make this decision without knowing exactly what my number is, buddy.
Yeah, and he's gonna probe, and that's the thing. I mean, and you're right. If he has all intent of keeping him, and he's just shopping a number to see if it's worth keeping him, then hey, I gotta tip my hat off to him, because he got me and he got my number. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, he's gonna have to really think about it, because I mean, the worst thing that can happen is he lets him go, and somebody gets him for less than what the tax would have been. He's going to kick himself, because he could have, you know what I mean? He could have gotten more money. With the other guy, he can't really do, because nobody's going to want to pay that amount.
No, nobody's going to. Yeah, nobody's going to give him anything for that.
So, so Robinson's a lost cause. But with Gurley, yeah, he's going to be under the gun with that one.
Yep. All right, so we went a little bit long with those. I'm sorry about that, but we got one more. We got Dennis here. So, your favorite, Steve, Dennis, your buddy, your pal, your arch nemesis.
My buddy, my pal.
You know what, Steve? I want you to go last on this one, because
okay,
right. I think it's only right. So, Anthony, you start us off here.
No. This is your guy. You guys have been going to war. This y'all been going this longer than.
But don't you want it to build up? Haven't you ever watched the movie? The good stuff doesn't happen right away.
Yeah,
Jesus, you go first.
I'll go first. Listen, I have no problem going first. All right. So what's Dennis going to do? Dennis is going to keep McCoy. He paid 30. He traded for him with Anthony. He paid $30. He's going to keep McCoy. Dennis is going to keep T.Y. Hilton, $37. Keeper tag is $8. And Dennis is probably going to keep Kirk Cousins at $1. That's what Dennis is going to do. He's not going to keep anybody else. He's not Fitzgerald, goodbye. Randall Cobb, goodbye. Doug Baldwin, goodbye. Michael Crabtree, goodbye. LeGarrette Blount, goodbye. So Dennis is in a situation right now where last year he wasn't successful at getting keepers. I'm going to just be honest, he wasn't. Kirk Cousins was the one guy that he was able to get that's a keeper, but everybody else he just didn't. He failed at that. And that's my man, but I would tell him this, and he knows that I'm always honest with him. He failed at getting keepers. So what did he try to do this year? He traded for keepers. Which is a smart move, right? He said he did what Gabe kind of did. Gabe went ahead and traded for keepers. Gabe took T.Y. Hilton from Steve. And then Gabe went and traded T.Y. Hilton to Dennis, Steve's arch nemesis, which I just think is phenomenal because Steve is going to be watching these Colt games, and every time Andrew Luck throws a touchdown, he's going to celebrate. But then when he sees number 13 was the guy that caught it, he's going to throw something at the television set. And I'm just telling you this right now, Steve. When you're watching the game, do not hold your daughter. Keep your daughter far, far away from you. Keep her safe, okay? We don't want nothing happening to that beautiful little princess, all right? But on a serious note, I think Dennis, if he can draft the way I think he's capable of, and I don't think last year was a great draft for him. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. But if he can draft the way I think he's capable of, McCoy, I think, still has one really good year left in him. I think T.Y., if he's healthy, we all know T.Y. is a top 10 receiver. His problem is just being healthy. And then Kirk Cousins is still playing for a contract. So we know he's going to do everything he can to put up his numbers. So I'm going to say this. I think Dennis, going into the draft, should go after a Jordy Nelson. That's my thing. I think a Jordy Nelson, a Todd Gurley, he needs one more big name, and that's the avenue that he's going to go. And I think he's going to do it. And I think him and Steve are going to have an epic battle this year for that division. I don't think it's going to be a runaway. I think it's going to be an absolute epic battle. Go ahead, Anthony.
That's adorable.
Anthony.
What?
I think it's your turn to go. Come on now.
We this is the beauty of this. We sit here and argue this, and we look at the rosters, and we all pretty much come to a consensus that what guys need to do is almost unanimous. If you have Cousins for $1, and with that offense, like I said, they lost Jackson. I mean, they lost a few pieces, but Reed's still there. They drafted Dotson. He's still there. They have Crowder. They picked up Pryor. They still have Kelly. They drafted another running back. The offense will be fine. And if he performs the way he performed last year, you keep the guy for $1. He traded to get McCoy, which is exactly what he wanted. $25. That's his keeper tag. He's going to be just as efficient in Buffalo as he was before. Now, what I worry about is if he's going to try to outsmart himself. If he's looking at all the angles, like, if I think this guy's going to do that and this guy's going to do that, then I know I can get this guy at that price. I think what we all learned is watching this draft, God knows how these things go. You don't know who's going to go where, which way is up. Is this guy a good value, anything else like that? As a matter of fact, we don't think about value. You're just trying to buy and get the guy you want, then kind of figure it out from there, because once the draft's over, the price goes out the window. As long as the guy you get, that's all that really matters.
That's right.
I mean, with him, like I said, Nelson's going to be a hot property. Jefferson's going to be Alshon Jeffrey. He's going to be a hot property out there. I think a guy like Michael Thomas, maybe, like I said, he has Michael Crabtree now. You can get it for cheaper as like a number 2 guy, but I think he still needs a number 1. Like I said, having Cousins, having McCoy, having Hilton. I mean, as long as you have your pieces, as long as you have the pieces that are in place that, you know, are going to take care of the scoring for you more than anything else, I think that's where he's kind of leading. Like, Kirk's going to be a starter. McCoy should rack up his point, and so should Hilton. Hilton should be healthier. Luck should be healthier. Therefore, it should logically lead to a better year.
Marshawn Lynch is another guy to watch for him. Marshawn Lynch.
He's another guy, and that
That's Dennis loves offensive lines, good offensive lines. That's why I think that's a guy to watch here, because Dennis loves offensive lines.
And Marshawn Lynch will probably be a good pickup. Like I said, and he learns well. Like him and Pops, like I said, you share blood, you share ideas, you share thoughts, and they both think the same way. They might go in with whatever amount of money it might be, but they're not going here empty-handed. They're not leaving out without a guy or two that they need, because they're going to do the research and find whoever they're going to get and find whoever they're going to need. Once you look at their roster, I'm pretty sure they have a plan set in mind. Like, they know exactly who they're keeping, which path they're going, and who do they really like.
I would hope so.
Now they might have. Well, I mean that's what everybody should do. But
I mean, the sun comes up every day and the sun goes down every day. That's not stating anything new.
Well, no, it's not stating anything new, but more in the sense of the fact that people come and play in fantasy football and they enjoy it. And like I said, we tend to be competitive, so you can't just hop in there and like, okay, I'm gonna get this guy and that guy. You're going to need to do your research. You're going to need to do some studying. They've both been very good at that. Just finding guys like, how did he get him and where did he get from and how did he get him at that price? Because they watch, they listen, and they study. I don't really worry about him, and I don't really worry about Pops, because I know, and at the end of the day, they're going to do the right thing. Hell or high water. Because they know how their rosters work. They know they're going to do enough to be competitive. And then once the season starts, they know how to work the wire. They'll make a fair and honest trade with you, because they always want to get better. They always are never settled with their team. They're going to do a great job. And I have no problem with Dennis. Me and him have made deals in the past. Some we've agreed upon, some we haven't. Sometimes we see eye to eye, sometimes we don't.
Okay.
But the thing I'm always impressed with him by is that he knows what he's looking for. He knows what he's asking for. And in a draft like this, when we're back to 10 teams, you're going to have to be aggressive, because you know that it's only going to be so much talent to go around. You need to get that one piece that you're looking for, especially when you already have 3, and make sure you get your guy, and then you just figure out the rest.
Steve,
that's my thought on it.
Steve, close it out. I want you to close it out with a bang. Come on.
All right, I'm gonna first spit some venom.
Oh.
Because that's what I do.
Oh.
And the one thing is, I am convinced that Gabe and Dennis love each other.
What? What?
Because the fact that he sold T.Y. Hilton to him for $37, and in the other league sells Mike Evans to Gabe, knowing that both of these guys have had on both my rosters for years to come, I'm convinced that both of these two guys love each other and hate me. I'm convinced. I'm really convinced. Anyways, to the real stuff, though. I get why Gabe did it. He made a profit. Good for him. Dennis did the smart move, because I think, honestly, T.Y. Hilton in an open market actually goes in the 40s, because
Agreed.
Everybody knows that Luck had a down year last year. He got the shoulder fixed. He's going to be better this year. And the shoulder didn't.
Sounds like wishful thinking.
Exactly. So he knows that T.Y. Hilton's going to light it up. So now it becomes, what else he's going to keep? So he got LaShawn McCoy, which is a great deal for $30, only $5 more. That was a solid move. To me, guys, I think the key thing that you're missing on is, yes, he's going to keep Kirk Cousins for $1, but Michael Crabtree, although he's not going to be the same Michael Crabtree of last year, Michael Crabtree still is $1. He's not going to cost him $20, because remember, he bought the other 2 guys, so he still has another 1 to play with, and he can either play with Michael Crabtree or LeGarrette Blount. And to me, LeGarrette Blount is not worth. I mean, I don't know. It's a risk there. So I think Michael Crabtree is the logical choice for $1. And I think
But it's that dreaded. But it's that dreaded keeper tag.
Yeah, he'll have him. Yeah, he'll have him for like $131. You know what I mean?
And also remember, he traded Cam Newton to Anthony in the McCoy deal, so he can only keep 2 guys if he really wants to. So yes, you're right, he could technically do it, but now all of a sudden we're looking at that dreaded $20 that everybody can't stand.
Oh, so he does. Okay, so I may have missed that one. That's probably what I. Then he can't keep, so he only has 1 to play with. So then you guys are right. I didn't realize he traded somebody else. In
the McCoy deal, Cam Newton went to Anthony at that time.
Gotcha. Okay, so then yes, so then you got your fellas are right. So then then the logical choice is he goes for Kirk Cousins for $1. So you guys are right there. the key thing with Dennis is I think Dennis in both leagues, it took him a year to finally take off. If you remember, I know some of you guys in Dynasty, most of the guys were in Dynasty. There are some rookies that don't remember, but it took him the year to finally catch his ground. And in year 2, he did really solid things. I think the same thing's happening here. I think this year, yeah, he doesn't have, the money that he normally enters the draft with. Normally, if people remember, Dennis is the type of guy who enters the draft with 2 players and he's somehow positive, right?
Yeah,
he's like has $210 because he wamboozled somebody in paying a keeper tag. And
he wamboozled Dom. That's the guy he wamboozled.
And got like $15 in profit, right?
Yeah, yep.
So he's gonna be doing that next year. So he's on the right path. This year, like you said, Jesus, he didn't get money on the keepers, but he bought them this year. He's going to for 8 next. I think this year it's really going to depend on his drafting, and he's normally a good drafter, so I'm not really concerned. I think he's going to come back to form. He's definitely going to compete for a title, and he'll definitely be in the wild card to talks as far as who's better, depending on his draft. I think next year he's going to be a problem.
Okay.
But I mean, this year again, the thing is I don't know if he stays with Kirk Cousins. I would hope that he go after another quarterback because I get it, he's in a contract year, but Kirk Cousins has a tight end who gets injured a lot, and he doesn't have Deshaun Jackson. And I get Deshaun Jackson is a hit or miss guy, but also you guys forget Pierre Garçon's no longer there either.
Fact.
So Kirk Cousins, to me, is a huge risk. I think where his pillars are definitely in T.Y. Hilton and McCoy. And honestly, if I'm him, maybe he thinks about a Michael Crabtree because I get it. Yeah, Kirk Cousins probably on an open market. A lot of people have him ranked high. He probably goes for $10 or $15 on the open market. But my thinking is so does a Michael Crabtree. And Michael Crabtree, until he proves that he's not a flex player, which he was for Dennis last year, and a damn good flex player at that last year, I would take the $1 risk on a Michael Crabtree. Forget Kirk Cousins. Find another quarterback. He's very capable of drafting a quarterback. He knows his quarterback, so I'm not worried about that. So I think I just would ask him to relook at the Kirk Cousins. That's just me.
I can't say that again. You brought your A game today. I still say keep Kirk Cousins, but I'm looking at Crabtree right now, and yeah, man. I mean, you're not wrong about it. This was his season last year. 10-9, 10-26, 10-1, 15, 10, 2-0, 11, 13, 2, 12, 9, and 4. That's flex right there. No, not at all. Not at all.
That's a flex guy. Exactly. For $1, and we know Dennis can draft quarterbacks, so that's why I'm saying, like, why take a risk on a Kirk Cousins when you have value in Michael Crabtree? Again, this was kind of the same argument we had when we talked about Deshaun Jackson. Michael Crabtree's that same. It's $1. It's not like it's a huge risk.
Yeah, I mean, Dennis, you got some thinking to do. We did go over this show, guys. We apologize, but we had so much to get into. Next week, it's going to be the 3 playoff teams that can make playoffs but can't win championships. We're talking Steve, we're talking me, and we're talking Rich. We know how to make the playoffs, but we can't win the championship. And then the final one the week after is all about the champion, the main man himself, Anthony.
Oh, yeah.
So that's our show.
All eyes on me.
We hope you guys enjoyed it. We will see you guys again next week. Stay safe. Be safe. We are out. Peace.
Adios.
Peace.